Moi. Tänään we're going to attempt to have a little discussion about genetiivi, so the genitive case in Finnish. And I know this video is long overdue. The last case video I made was years ago, but this is difficult even for me to 100% understand. So we'll see how this goes. I realized when I was making my notes, I'll probably need to do 3 videos altogether-ish, just to make sure I break it up enough and we don't get too overwhelmed, and also to kind of section off different aspects. So I've already made a video about cases in general and the nominatiivi case, which is the basic one. Please go and watch that because I'll explain what Finnish cases are, why Finnish uses them, and basically just a kind of intro into cases. So go watch that first if this is all new to you. So to answer the question of when genetiivi is used, I think the most important point to know is that it answers the question of whose, which is why I made the kenen video, because whose in Finnish is kenen. So what that means is that genetiivi indicates possession of something. That's the most basic and important thing you should know about genetiivi, is that it answers the question of kenen, whose, and thus is indicating the possession of an item or someone or something, okay? Possession. So it works in the similar way as in English, the apostrophe S. There are a few other places that you may stumble upon genetiivi. For example, when expressing necessity, so having to do something, you must do something. Another one would be when using postpositions, for example, in front or behind. When using these kinds of words, you also would use genetiivi form. A full list of this can be found in the link in the description box. You can see all of the different postpositions that genetiivi is used with. And then finally, you would use genetiivi with the word kanssa. So kanssa in this context means with. So if you're talking about doing something with someone, you would also use genetiivi. But before we get started, if learning Finnish cases feels super overwhelming to you and you are feeling stuck with your Finnish learning, this month there is an opportunity for you to take part in italki's free language challenge. Italki's language challenge started this week and runs all the way until the end of March 2022. You can set concrete goals for the next approximately 40 days by challenging yourself to take between 5 and 24 hours of lessons with native teachers by the end of March. The higher the goal that you set is, the bigger your reward will be once you reach that goal. So if you want to take part in italki's free language challenge, just use the link in my description box down below. It's free. It'll help you master the Finnish grammar faster. The benefit of the italki language challenge is that you can set your goals, then study one-on-one with native teachers on italki that can give you personalized lessons to accelerate your learning. So if you're still struggling with genetiivi, for example, after this video, you can sign up for a tutoring lesson with a native Finnish speaker on italki. They can then set up a lesson for you that will cover all the questions you might have about genetiivi or anything else regarding the Finnish language. And this way, if you're still struggling with the genetiivi after this video, you can just join the challenge and your Finnish journey can skyrocket on. So click my link in the description box down below to join italki's language challenge. Then you can set your goals and win rewards for each goal achieved. All right, so now that we know the 4 main situations you will come across genetiivi, which again was indicating possession, expressing necessity, postpositions, and with the word kanssa. Now, the next question would be, well, how do you form genetiivi? So the memory rule for this is that genetiivi To form it, you just add the letter N to the end of the word. Here's a little tip that may or may not be helpful. For me, it was very helpful to help me remember that genetiivi, the ending is an N. So in school, when we're having to memorize the different cases and case endings, we were told that it would be helpful to memorize it not as genetiivi, but as genetiivin. Genetiivin. In that way, when we're memorizing the case names, we add the case ending to the name of the case, and in that way you only have to remember one thing. So we're remembering genetiivin instead of having to separately remember both things. And then when we're going through our list, like nominatiivi, genetiivin, okay, partitiivia, you're remembering, okay, genetiivin, it's genetiivi, the ending is an N. So that's just a little memory tip, may or may not be helpful, but to me, I found that quite helpful when you're just having to go through and memorize these. So let's take some examples. So our first example is, let's say, talo, a house. Talo, talo. To turn it into the genetiivi form, so to indicate possession, for example, we could say talon, because we're just adding the N simply to the end of the basic part of the word. Talon becomes houses. So you could say talon pihalla on koira. In the house's yard, there's a dog. Talon pihalla on koira. Then we could take the word koira and turn it into genetiivi by just adding an N to the end of the word. So koira becomes koiran. Koiran. Dogs. Apostrophe S. Dogs. Okay, so you could say koiran luu, dog's bone. Koiran luu, a dog's bone. And as you can see, it's indicating possession because it's the dog's bone. The dog owns that bone. It's the dog's. Then this also works with proper names, so people and dogs' names as well. So for example, Sydney, my dog's name, Sydney, if we're talking about something Sydney owns, for example, Sydney's toy, we would just add an N to the end of Sydney. So it would be Sydney plus N, Sydnin. Sydnin lelu, Sydney's toy. Sydnin lelu. Okay? I do want to add here though that although when you're reading about genetiivi it'll say the ending is an N, this is for words that end in a vowel. So for example, if you're talking about names that end in a consonant, you actually have to add an I-N, not only an N. And this is again so it's easier to pronounce. So for example, I can see on my wall there's an Adam Lambert poster. Adam ends in a consonant, so it's not Adam, Adam. Laulu, for example, you would have to say Adamin laulu. You have to add the Adam plus I-N. Adamin laulu. Adam's song. I also have a One Direction poster, so a couple of these lads have a consonant at the end of their name. So for example, Zayn ends in an N, so we would have to say Zaynin tukka, for example. Zayn's hair. Zaynin tukka. Or then you could say Niolin genga. Niall's shoe. Niolin genga. Because Niall ends in an L, you can't say Niol. It just doesn't flow well. You would have to say Niolin genga. And Liam also ends in M, so you would say Liamin, Liamin, Liamin paita. Liam's shirt. Liamin paita. Okay, so that's basically how genetiivi works, simply said. Now, if we take a few more examples with the other situations where you would use genetiivi, because this was just indicating possession. So if we want to take an example of genetiivi when expressing necessity. So one way to express necessity in Finnish is to use the verb täytyä, to have to. Täytyä. Täytyä. if you want to say Liam has to go to the store, you would say Liamin täytyy mennä kauppaan. You wouldn't say Liam täytyy mennä kauppaan, you would say Liamin täytyy mennä kauppaan. Liam has to go to the store. So I think this is a good moment to add what the genetiivi forms of minä, sinä, and hän are. So I, you, he, she. These are words you just have to memorize. So minä turns into minun, which is mine. Sinä turns into sinun, which is yours. And hän turns into hänen, which means his or hers. Minun, sinun, hänen. Minun, sinun, hänen. Those are the singular forms of these. Minun, sinun, hänen. Minun, sinun, hänen. So then if we're again expressing necessity, I could say minun täytyy mennä kauppaan. You wouldn't say minä täytyy mennä kauppaan. You have to say minun täytyy mennä kauppaan. You have to use genitive here because you are expressing necessity. You're having to do something. Same with the word pitää, to have to do. Minun pitää lukea kirja. I have to read a book. Minun pitää lukea kirja. I have to read a book. Sinun pitää lukea kirja as well. You have to read a book. Talking about postposition, so in front is edessä, edessä. So if I would say lasi, a glass, lasi on minun edessä. Again, I'm using genetiivi. Minun edessä. The glass is in front of me. Then we could say this is a kirja, a book. Lasi on kirjan edessä. Kirjan edessä. Takana means behind. Lasi on kirjan takana. Kirjan is in genetiivi. Kirjan takana. Lasi on kameran edessä. So kamera turns into kameran. Kameran edessä. Lasi on kameran takana. Kameran takana. Again, if you want to know all of these postpositions, just check the link in the description box. That'll give you a list of all of the ones where you'd have to use genetiivi for. So you could say kameran vieressä. Lasi on kameran vieressä. The glass is next to the camera, and so on and so forth. So when you're using these postpositions, you also have to use genetiivi. And then finally with the word kanssa, so with. So if you're saying minun kanssa, with me, you have to use genetiivi. So for example, if I'm asking you, tule minun kanssa kauppaan, minä would have to be in genetiivi because I'm using the word kanssa. Come with me to the store. Tule minun kanssa kauppaan. Or if I'm telling you to go with Adam Lambert to the store, I would say mene Adam Lambertin, because we don't need to put Adamin Lambertin. We can just say Lambertin. That's his last name. So because it ends in T, we add plus IN instead of only N. So I would say mene Adam Lambertin kanssa kauppaan. And because we're using kanssa, we have to use genetiivi. Mene Adam Lambertin kanssa kauppaan. Okay, that's where I'm going to wrap up this genetiivi video. Again, there's a lot more to cover, so if I didn't get through your main questions, be patient. There will be a few more parts to this because I still need to do plurals. I should probably talk about adjectives a bit more, talk about the omistusliittees, which if you don't know what that is, you'll find out soon when I talk about it later. Also, I would really like to ask you if you could, in the comments, write what is your biggest struggle with cases. It can be in regards to genetiivi or it could be in regards to other cases, just so I can kind of filter and structure my videos where it seems people are struggling with the most. But yeah, this is just the basics of genetiivi, genetiivin. So practice this first, try to wrap your head around this. In the comments, put down your major struggle areas and things that confuse you the most. So yep, I can use that to structure my future case videos, and we'll be talking about genetiivi again quite soon. So I'll see you then. Moikka!